All right, let's begin. Welcome to the April 7th, 2020 meeting of the Milton Select Board. Before we begin, please join us as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
Pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of
of the
America,
United States of America,
to the republic,
to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty,
liberty,
and justice.
justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. The first item on the agenda, and for those joining, we have a number of participants. And so what we're going to do until we get to public comment and then the public meeting on the East Milton Residences project, we're going to mute everyone except for the members, and then we'll unmute people as they are speaking. So for public comment, we're going to do it this way, and we've done this a few times. Also, hopefully, it will work. We're going to ask you, if you can, if you're not speaking, to mute your microphone or mute your phone or computer. But for public comment, we're going to open it up and unmute everyone, and I'm going to ask everyone to speak if they want to be heard for public comment. And again, this is public comment, which is separate from the comment on the East Milton project. That's going to be item 5 on the agenda. So if you have a public comment separate and apart from the East Milton project, that will be now. So what we're going to do is unmute all the phones. We're going to ask people to speak and tell us if you want to be heard in public comment. If you're on the computer, you can just give me your name and we'll be able to unmute you as you go forward. If you're on the phone, please give your name and the last 4 digits of your extension so we can identify you and know when to take you off mute. So again, we're going to unmute all the phones. We're going to ask anyone who wants to speak in public comment, not the East Milton project, but public comment, and state your name. And if you're on the phone, state your name and the last 4 digits of your phone extension. So I'm going to ask Hillary to take everyone off mute. And now I'm going to ask people to state if they want to be heard for public comment, separate and apart from the East Milton project. So anyone for public comments, please state. One for public comment? Going once? Going twice?
Oh.
All right. So, hello? Does someone want to be heard? No.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. This is all new. This is all new. I may need to use that bell going forward. All right. So Hillary, I'm going to ask you to mute everyone again, but except the board members. And Caroline Kinsella, if she's on. And we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, which is the COVID-19 update. And I didn't check, Hillary, is Caroline on?
I'm looking for her. I'm making sure I have the last 4 digits of her phone number correct. I don't see them here.
Is there a 7541 there?
Yes,
me.
there is. That one's muted.
7541 could be our health director.
Yes.
Is that you, Caroline? 7541?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Zulus. Thank you, Hillary. So I have some good news to report. I'll start with the good news first. Our Chief Procurement Officer, Michael Kelly, was able to purchase 200 thermometers, and those will be used for positive COVID people that we've identified in the community. As we're calling positive COVID cases, we found out a lot of people don't have thermometers. So this is good news that we have 200 thermometers now that have been purchased, so good news. We also today have 56 positive cases of COVID-19, and the virus is spreading in the community. So I just wanted to let you know that the virus is here, it's spreading in the community, and as we see more people testing, those cases will go up. I also wanted to mention that the Centers for Disease Control have issued a voluntary public health measure. You guys might know about this, but it's the use of cloth face coverings to help slow the spread of COVID-19. And this is to slow the spread of the virus and help people who may have the virus and do not know it from transmitting it to others. So this is a voluntary public health measure. You might see people walking around with scarves on or bandanas, so that's voluntary. But that's a CDC public volunteer measure that the CDC has instituted. And I would also like to ask that residents stay at home with their immediate household family to celebrate the holidays this week. So asking the residents to stay home and celebrate just with their immediate family members to slow the transmission of this virus. And that's my report.
Thank you, Caroline. Any comments or questions from the members?
Mike Dennehy, did I hear the number is 56 confirmed positive? 56?
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's correct.
So, Michael, this is Mr. Chairs. Richard, I do have one
Yep.
item I want to mention. So, thank you, Caroline. And as you know, we want to do everything we can to help you. As we know, Mayor Walsh has implemented a 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew in the city. On Sunday's call with the MAPC and Attorney General Healy, as Mr. Dennehy knows, I don't know who else was in on this call, but there were a lot of mayors and city managers, town managers in the state who were pushing to do something like this. And I know this is a harsh measure. I talked to Chief King about it today a little bit. I still don't believe that some people realize that how hard Caroline's words are trying to articulate her belief that she's trying to save the lives and protect the residents of this community. And while I'm not asking for us to vote on this tonight, I did mention this to the chief today. I say to my colleagues, we need to think about this. Caroline, if you think we should do it here, that I'd ask for our next meeting to potentially put it on for a vote. Michael Dennehy, maybe you have another conversation with Chief King tomorrow. I mean, not only in the public health thing that you saw, and I've known this just from law enforcement circles, nighttime crime has escalated a little bit because of this. It's just, no one should really be on the streets walking around after 9 o'clock at night. And as Katie had mentioned, 2 weeks ago when it was warm, and it was warm again today, and it's going to be warm again going into this. Parents need to keep the kids home. Our park department, our public works, our public safety, everyone, public health have worked so hard to try and do everything they can to protect the residents of the community. I just think that this is a discussion that we probably need to have. So I'm just laying it out there tonight. Caroline, you don't have to say yes or no. I don't even know where you're at on this. Chief King was the only one I talked to about it today. But as Mr. Dennehy knows, there were many mayors and city and town managers and select board members who really pushed for that on Sunday. And Attorney General Healy, I think it's Chapter 40, Section 36, felt that any community who did it was well within their rights. And I'm not saying this like looking to put people in jail I'm saying this in a way is that all of us here are trying to protect the lives of our citizens, and I'm just bringing that up. I think that maybe perhaps Mr. Chair would ask if we could have this on for discussion on our next meeting.
So I believe we could put it on. We've already posted for Thursday, but we can probably add it since it's come up at the late moment.
And Caroline, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
And Caroline, I'm sorry. I know I didn't have a chance to in preference to give you any heads up on this, as I say, I listened to I've listened to Mayor Walsh really, both on the masks as you described tonight and on the curfew. That was a hard decision for him, and I felt it was a very prudent one, because just as we saw from the park commissioners today, there are still people who believe that this isn't as serious as it is, and to say I'm not asking anyone, I'm just laying it out there. We can discuss it on Thursday, but I think it's prudent for us to have a discussion about this. What
I
asked
agree with
Chief
you.
King-
Yeah, I agree with
Thank you, Caroline.
Protect the
What I asked-
residents, absolutely.
Yes, and what I asked Chief King today when I spoke to him was not, I didn't ask him for a decision. He wasn't surprised when I brought this up to him. It's probably been on his mind as well. It's very rare that I reach out to him. He's the chief now, I'm not, but I didn't want to have this discussion tonight without talking to him about it first, and I just called him quickly this afternoon before I brought this up. But you're right, Caroline. I mean, this is serious stuff here, and it's a very harsh thing, but we're definitely seeing from all the info we're getting that there are those who are outside of it, and no one should really be on the streets after 9 o'clock at night. They really shouldn't, unless they're following the essential, the guidelines are already laid out.
Yeah, you're right. I totally agree.
And Mr. Chair, just one last thing, and this is just a point of interest. As this federal dollars start to come out, and this is for something that I'd asked Mr. Dennehy to relate to Christine Stanton, I didn't mention this to the chief today, but Patty Mandeville, perhaps Michael can mention it to the chief, is that as these federal dollars come out, I don't know if any of you have followed, there have been several advisories already coming out about potential scams, and like our elderly and people like that. I think we need to be prepared them, because sadly, whenever there's opportunity, there's also opportunity for crime. And I think perhaps we need to put a little bit of a collective effort together and make sure that our seniors know that the only people giving this out are the government, not there are no independent agencies in between that are brokering for anyone.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the mic? Ms. Collins.
I would say that I would be surprised if we all hadn't been thinking about that, Richard. So thank you for bringing it up. And I'm not familiar with what you were referring to with the parks today. So maybe we could talk about that on Thursday as well. But thank you. And I look forward to hearing from Chief King, and I appreciate, Caroline, your giving your thoughts on that.
Thank you.
So, Linda, yesterday down at the basketball courts at the high school, we had zip ties on all the basketball hoops, and the basketball hoop, they were cut off by kids who want to play basketball. So that compelled the Parks Department to get a device to place wood on the tops and the bottoms of the rims and screw boards into the rims of the basketball hoops, so we won't have kids playing basketball at the hoops. So that was yesterday and today, and the Parks Department Parks Commissioners met today and authorized that action. So it is true that we're still having people who are going out and not taking this seriously. And does anyone have anything else? Any of the members have anything else for Caroline? I'll just say two things. One is I do want to recognize a resident on the thermometers. When we were trying to get thermometers over the weekend and yesterday, a resident donated a thermometer that Caroline was able to get to someone who didn't have a thermometer, who tested positive, and that was Aaron Johnson, a resident. So I think Mr. Johnson deserves credit for stepping up when that was needed. And I don't typically, I try not to editorialize too much, but I'm going to break that rule just for a moment. You know, Richard alluded to the fact that this is a very critical time, as did Caroline, this is a very critical time. It's been nearly 1 month of not going to work, not going to school, staying in the house, not having our normal lives. And there is a great temptation, I think, particularly with the weather the way it is, there's a great temptation to try to seek some of the normal aspects of our lives. There's great temptation to try to go out with friends and go out in groups and to try to, you know, hike on paths with hundreds of people. And I'm just going to ask everyone to please resist that temptation. This is a long marathon. We're quite possibly just approaching the heartbreak hill of this marathon. And we need to continue to be strong and continue to be resolute and continue to be committed to doing what we need to do. And what we need to do is not complicated. It's not complex. We just need to stay home. And if we don't want to spread it and we don't want to get it, we just need to stay home. And it's as frustratingly simple as that. So that's the end of my quick editorial. And I apologize for that. But Caroline, thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll thank you and
Thank you.
I'll continue to hear from you as we go forward.
Thank you, Chair Zulus.
Anything else on the COVID-19? We do have legislative summary that we received from the act that was passed last Friday and signed by the governor. It allows a lot of opportunities for municipalities. I don't know if we want to go into detail. Mr. Dennehy, I don't know if you want to go into detail with anything else related to COVID-19 before we move on.
I was going to make it part of my town administrator's report, and it's more surrounding some phone calls we took part in today with respect to budgetary stuff, but nothing other than that.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on COVID-19 from the members?
I think all of my colleagues probably know that there's Friday at 12 o'clock, the MMA is hosting a program for select board members and councilors. So hopefully, if anyone hasn't received the invitation to that, let me know and I'll make sure you get it. But it'd be a good update as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just have a point of thanks that I just want to make. Chief Ron Sellen, who's the chief in Mansfield, received a significant donation of N95 masks, California, more than he could use in his own department, and he spread those out by Mansfield's one of the departments that Milton is in the mutual aid pack with the Metrolec pack, and Chief King was a recipient of 100 masks from that gift. He gave 100 to every department that was in the Metrolec pack, which, as anyone knows, N95 masks are like gold right now, and it may not be as big as what the Patriots did for the Commonwealth, but it was a nice gesture by Chief Sellen, and I just wanted to say thank you for that tonight.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Anything else on COVID-19? And I will ask the members, let's try to mute ourselves because there is background noise. So let's try to mute ourselves, the members, when we're not speaking. I think that helps out everyone. All right. Let's move on to item 5, which is our public meeting. And I think we have a lot of people on the line who may want to speak on the public meeting with respect to the residences at East Milton. And once again, I'm gonna repeat just to try to make it as clear as possible how we're going to conduct this. And that is, I'm going to ask that all of the participants' phones and computers be unmuted. And then I'm going to ask each of you, if you wish to speak, to state your name. And if you're on the phone, state your name and the last 4 digits of your phone number. And then we'll mute you all again. And I will go down the list and let each person speak who has requested to speak. So if that's clear, I'm going to ask Hillary to unmute all the lines, and I'll ask people to give their name if they wish to speak, and if they're on the phone, give their name and the last 4 digits of their phone number. Hillary?
Okay, I am about to unmute everyone.
Yep.
Go ahead.
All right, please state your name, everyone, please state your name, and if you're on the phone, the last 4 digits of your phone number, if you wish to speak.
Hi, Hillary. This is Karen Harris from East Milton. My last 4 digits are. Pardon me?
Aaron, we didn't get the last 4 digits. Was it 5579?
That's right. Honestly, it's a reservation to speak because I think we've got folks on the line that are likely more well prepared. I just dialed in, just got the notice of the meeting, but it's certainly a topic of concern and wanting to follow it.
All right. Other people wishing to speak?
Jerry Cowger.
Jerry? Yep.
Yeah, and
Shane
I'm logged on
Shaughnessy.
my computer.
Yep. I have Shane Shaughnessy.
Thank you.
Adam 1040 and Kate 1040 2446 by phone.
Yep. Adam 1040. Got it. And Kate 1040. Yep. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Jim Coyle.
Can you say that again?
Jim Coyle.
Oh, Jim, sure. Anyone else wishing?
Carol,
Sorry, Carol.
yep, Carol Joyce, that's okay. Carol Joyce Harrington, 1585.
1585. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Stephen Stockbridge,
Stephen?
7019.
709. Anyone else wishing to speak? I don't know who that is. Anyone else wishing to speak? I'm going to read the list that I have. I have a list of 7 so far.
Kim
Oh.
Conroy,
Yep. Kim Con-
2319.
2319. List of 7 so far.
Oh, sorry, 2907.
Who's 2907?
That's Kim Conroy.
Oh, okay, Kim, yep. Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, I'm going to read the list that I have. Hillary, did you mute everyone? Or just some people?
Currently, just some people are muted. I can unmute them all again if that
No,
is
no,
what you'd like to do.
if they've already indicated that they're going to speak, then we can mute them for now. Leave to make sure we get the list of everyone. So I'm going to read the list that I have so far, and if you're not on the list, I'm going to give you another chance to join. I have Karen Harris, 5579, Jerry Toger, Shane Shaughnessy, Adam 1040, and Kate, I believe, 1040, Jim Coyle, Carol Joyce Harrington, 1585, Stephen Stockbridge, 7019, Kim Conroy, 2907. So that's 8 people. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Hey, Mike, it's Mark Croninger. How you doing?
Hi, Mark. All right.
Thank you.
And anyone else wishing to speak? All right, you'll get another shot after we go through these first 9 people. If anyone, and let me just throw it out one more time. Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, we'll go through these 9 people and then I'll give people another chance. So we're going to go down the list. We're going to go down the list now, and I'm going to ask we'll go down by number, and I'll ask Karen Harris at 5579. So Hillary, could you mute all the lines and accept Karen Harris at 5579?
Yes, I'm just looking for her again. It's a big list.
Great.
Yep, she's.
Can you hear me?
She's unmuted right now.
Great.
Yes, go ahead.
So can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, you can go ahead, Karen.
Thank you so much. So I've been watching from a distance, unfortunately, as time permits. Got a family and a lot of stuff going on. So I'm wondering if there is an actual factual location that documents the plans and the status. I've heard multiple versions of, let's say, truths or conceptions of what may or may not be taking place. And I apologize if this is going backwards. So if you can point me to somewhere, I just would like to know where the latest and actual detailed information is hosted, if you would.
So the best place, Karen, is to go to our website. We have a 40B section, and we have the applications for all of the 40Bs that have been filed. And so that's the most recent information that we have. And so we can get you, I'm trying to think of how we can do it. If you send an email to Mike Dennehy or to me, then we can send you the link. But otherwise, it's on our website, and I hope it's easy for you to find. But there's a 40B section, and that will give you the latest information that we have.
Okay, thank you. And may I ask, just before I give the time to the rest of the folks, when there's, we'll say, perceived differences in reality versus what's been presented, is there a forum for us to discuss those, or is that what this call would be for?
So, what I didn't do, and this is probably a good time to do it, and I neglected to do it, is to describe again what we're doing here and where we are in the process. So the town has received from Mass Housing, the section of the Department of Community and Housing Development, a letter advising us that a Chapter 40B project has been filed with them and has been submitted to the town for East Milton. And they have asked us, the select board, to comment on that. And in order to gather comments, we're asking all the boards and committees in town, and we're reaching out to the residents. And we're gonna try, and we're incorporating those comments and synthesizing all those comments for our response to Mass Housing. And that is due on April 20th. And we've had one public hearing, and this is now the second. And when we have a consultant who's assisting us in synthesizing those comments. And there are 3 areas that we're supposed to address in those comments. The first is whether the site is appropriate for residential development, taking into consideration all the factors of the surrounding area. 2, whether the conceptual design is generally appropriate for the site. And 3, whether the project is financially feasible within the housing market. Those are the 3 areas that we're supposed to address in the comments. And if the project, if after we send our comments, the project is considered eligible by Mass Housing, they will issue a letter saying the project is now eligible, and it will move to what's called the comprehensive permit stage. And then you will have an opportunity to be heard before the Zoning Board of Appeals in Milton. And that could be up to a 6-month process of public hearings about this project. And we'll be able to address a lot more detail about the project. So that's where we are in the process. So the short answer is there's 3 broad areas that we're supposed to address and that we're seeking comments on. But if you have comments, about the project, as long as it's not, what we're not supposed to address are things that deal with any potential discrimination. For example, who may live in the project, whether there might be school-age children or single parents or low-income people or people with disabilities. Those are things that we're not supposed to address in the comments. But that's where we are, and I do apologize to everyone that I didn't lay that out beforehand. I just simply forgot. So does that
No apologies. that was quite helpful. So concerns of personal safety for our family, concerns of East Milton already. I mean, being it is so nice right now to go and drive through the town. If any of you had a chance, this is kind of, I grew up here, and this is, I think, why a lot of people move to the town, to have it be a town, and it's become a cut-through city already. So for me, coming from East Milton to try and get my children to Collycott, and then I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when I have to go to Pearson, the high school. It is painstaking, and it separates us completely. So adding more to that is terrifying, because it really does put a stake in the ground that will separate East Milton from the rest of the town that Milton is. So we want to live here. We grew up here. I want to live here. But it's terrifying as it is to try and get our kids to school. We live within the proximity of what, we live less than 2 miles from the school, but yet we pay for buses for our children, $800 a child, because it's not safe for our children to walk to school as it would be for others. So I'm almost 3, very involved in the town, and very, very nervous about the potential. Not the potential for change. I certainly look at that as something that would be positive for the town, but to plant this in here is more than concerning for what could happen to my family and other families in the neighborhood, for sure.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harris.
Thank you.
Hillary, could you go ahead and mute Karen and unmute Jerry Tauger, please?
Yes, just one moment. Mr. Tauger, you are all set.
Okay, thank you. And, I'd just like to comment that I very much appreciate the concern I'm hearing now about this evening about COVID-19. And I'm very happy with the positions that I'm hearing taken. Granted that 40B is important, but right now COVID-19 is much more important. So let me thank you to all of you for that. And let me just address some of the things that I've noticed in the site application, which I will comment I did find readily accessible on the town website. And some of the concerns that I have, where again, I think some development, but may be appropriate, but what I'm seeing in the site application is not appropriate development. What we have is 111 units proposed on 1.09 acres, but they're saying that the property will only be, the development, the buildings will only be, the footprint will only be 36.5% of the total acreage. So that means that you have a unit density of something like 270 something units per acre. And okay, that is rather harrowing. In addition to that, to accomplish this, what they've shown us is an architectural plan that presses up against the sidewalks with no setback in an area that is already somewhat pedestrian unfriendly, yet they are claiming to be pedestrian friendly. And to accomplish this also by squeezing that many units into that much area, the units are, if you look at the comparables that they have in their site application, comparable developments, those comparables are, the units are in almost all cases larger for 1 bedrooms. They're in almost 1 bedroom units, almost in all cases larger in square feet for 2 bedroom units. And not only that, but although the units in those other developments are larger, the rents are lower. So what you have is a situation where they are proposing to charge more for less. And in what is becoming an increasingly competitive situation with all the development going on in Quincy, one has to wonder to what extent One of the concerns that we're supposed to be addressing is whether the proposed project appears financially feasible within the housing market in which it is cited. Well, one wonders about that. And I'd also like to address that from the point of view of a senior citizen, myself and my wife, who have been homeowners in East Milton for 46 years. And it would cost us to move into a one-bedroom apartment in this development, over $31,000 a year in rent in a one-bedroom apartment. One of the arguments that I've heard made for development in East Milton is that there is a concern for senior citizens who want to downsize, and this would provide an opportunity. Well, this argument becomes seriously questionable in light of what my wife and I pay now to live compared to paying $31,000 a year for a one-bedroom apartment. It just doesn't add up. And so I think the arguments for it being an attractive option for senior citizens are totally undercut by the numbers that the developers themselves present in the site application. Finally, one additional thing which makes it further unattractive for seniors, and perhaps for others as well, is that only 6 units out of the 111 are handicapped accessible. And that makes it, for seniors who want to downsize, but who also look at even healthy seniors like myself, who might still have to be concerned about what possibly might lie in the future, there is no way that a thinking senior citizen is going to commit to an apartment situation where there is not handicapped accessibility. So there are additional numbers that I could provide, but those numbers have been provided. I believe we provided those to Denny Swenson. I think the planning board has provided some of those figures to your board. And I think I would just like to say that also that as a member of the East Milton Neighborhood Association board, we are not opposed to any development, but this development is not appropriate as it's now presented. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Towder. Thank you very much. Hillary, if you could mute Mr. Towder and unmute Shane Shaughnessy.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. I apologize if we have any background noise. We have 3 little ones running around. So don't
worry about it.
Okay. So my husband, John, and I reside at 30 Franklin on the corner of Bassett. We have 3 small children, 6, 4, and 2. We are currently right now the only homeowners that are the direct abutters to this project. I want to start off by saying, first of all, that we're not, against any affordable housing, but what we are against is the scale of 111 units. It's very concerning to us. We have been, I apologize. We have 3 years of this, like, emotions and worries and concerns about all of this. My husband's from South Boston. That's where we were living when we were first married. And we left there to have a better, safer neighborhood for our children to grow up in. I grew up at 41 Franklin, 2 houses down, where my parents still reside, and my father actually grew up. So we have been here basically all of our lives, and we were so lucky enough to move back here. But 111 units on 1 acre of land, it's towering over our home. It faces the side of our house where we have all windows, including 2 bedrooms. Our biggest concern, obviously, is the safety of our children. This neighborhood is already so messed up with traffic. It's an extreme cut through area. We have people that are just banging U's in the middle of the four-way intersection outside of our house, to the point where they're backing up onto our lawn, knocking over flower pots. It's a huge safety concern for us any single time that our kids go out. It's scary to us what 111 units would do with all of this more parking, more traffic. The parking, obviously, there's not enough parking in the whole town, or the whole square rather, right now. So I don't know how 111 units with the amount of parking spaces, I forget what it was, but it was like half the amount of spaces for the number of units. Also, there's a huge concern with water. Anyone that is around this area knows that Franklin Street is over a natural spring. So anytime we get any sort of heavy rains like we had this week, all of that water comes up through our basements, whether or not there's the proper sub pumps going and whatever else. We had mentioned that to the Falcones 3 years ago. They were unaware of the water issue, and they then did a ground study at the house directly across the street, which is now owned by Falcone or Corcoran. And they drilled down, and sure enough, right in the front yard, they were pulling up buckets of brown water. So we have a major concern with that. You know, if they're digging down for parking and all of that, where is that water getting displaced to? It's going to go right into our basements, our yards, everything else. Obviously, you know, with the whole 6 stories that it's potentially put at, we're concerned about our privacy. We're concerned about our sunlight. It's, you know, standing at 66 feet tall, and they're already a level above us as it is. I had already mentioned, okay, so the parking, 136 spots for 111 units. I mean, we have friends that live even on the other side of town or in Quincy and Dorchester that would come to the square frequently. And now they've pulled like their memberships from the gym, or they don't go to the fruit center anymore because there's nowhere to park. And that overspill comes into our neighborhoods, and it's a constant battle with cars and just people not paying attention, frankly. Obviously, the pinch for schools, I know that's been a huge topic, and it's been talked about quite a bit. Our daughter is in the 1st grade at Collycott, and she has 27 children in her classroom. This is a proposal with 12 3-bedrooms. To me, a 3-bedroom would say a family, and that's more children. And the schools are just, the kids are going to be the one that suffers for this. I mean, we have enough overspill in the schools to build a whole other school. I mean, there's just so many other reasons, but those are our main concerns, more or less. You know, and as far as like the financial feasibility issue that we wanted to address, it was told to us that, you know, the other project, which we were so close to getting at, I feel like this neighborhood has worked for so long to get to that last 64 unit project that the Falcones had presented last. And then we were told that that could never have been feasible to the project itself. It basically, we feel as if we, and I say we as a neighborhood, are being punished for what is potentially a bad investment, you know, 3 years ago. It's just such a shame that this neighborhood is being turned into, like, there's no other building structure in the whole town. And then it's being put on 1 acre of land surrounded by a neighborhood. And, you know, also just to note that half of that property that they purchased is in the residential district. And I know the whole zoning thing and everything, but it's half residential. And we were told 3 years ago when we moved here, what did we expect when we bought on the fringe of a business district? And that was very upsetting. I mean, this was our life savings that we put into this house. This is our home. This is our neighborhood, and it has been our neighborhood for many, many years. Our quality of life is being taken away. It's just, it's sad to me. And we're, you know, I'm sorry for the rant, but this has been many sleepless nights, many tears, many frustrations. And I thank you all for listening. My husband's also here with me. I don't know if he has anything to add. Thank you.
Just want to comment on if this proposal appears financially feasible within the housing market. Is that right now, within the midst of this corona pandemic, we don't know what what's going to happen with the economy afterwards, and we don't know what exactly the housing market's going to look like once this all gets settled down. And I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in with that, because we don't know what the future is going to hold, and if this is actually, if it does get built, if anyone would even be able to afford to live there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And please tell your wife that she shouldn't apologize for anything.
Thank you.
Good presentation, so don't apologize for anything. All right, so Hillary, if you could mute the Shaughnessy's and we'll move on to the Tenafortes. I hope I pronounced that properly. Tenafortes?
Oh, yeah, like the tax returns. Bad joke this time of the year. Well, first off, I just want to thank the select board for taking the COVID-19 crisis seriously. I'm a physician at Spalding and MGH who's been on the front line helping with screening. And I think, you know, this continues to be a moving target in terms of understanding how significant this will be for the health of everyone in the US and globally. But with regards to this project, I just want to echo on a couple of points that were brought up. I'm in complete agreement on the concerns about safety design and feasibility. First, with regards to safety, it is a very dense area, and I agree that there could be a lot of concerns about the safety of pedestrians. I mean, there's a reason why there's that very strange stop with the lights. It's not because it's convenient for traffic, it's because it was the right thing to do for the pedestrians. With regards to East Milton Square and eliminating that overpass. I agree also with the concerns about the design, the idea that this building that would just tower over all of the other residential properties and commercial properties would be consistent with the design of a really much older town with much narrower streets really seems to be inconsistent. And finally, just bringing up the concept of feasibility, I really, the more that I hear discussions about COVID, people said this could be similar to 9/11, and now people are saying this could be, you know, severe enough to, you know, echo the financial woes that we're seeing during the Great Depression or even in times of war with World War II. And so I think there's a lot of things that are up in the air that we really don't understand. And a project of this magnitude would take a very long time to build. What's been proposed is that we're trying to broaden the tax base for the town, and we're trying to provide affordable housing. And if we try to accomplish all of this in one small parcel of land, what we run the risk of is driving these small businesses into bankruptcy, and basically making it so that people will not want to visit the small businesses because there'll be construction possibly for multiple years. There's going to be ongoing issues with traffic and parking. And so again, I stand with everyone else in saying that I think it's reasonable to build affordable housing. It's just the size of this building is just inconsistent with what I believe that area can truly hold. I'm going to hand it over to my wife, Kate, and just pretend that she's also calling in independently so she can provide her view.
Hi, my name is Kate 1040. I grew up in East Milton and was away for a number of years living on the West Coast, and was really excited to move back here. I share the concerns that others have voiced regarding traffic, safety, and the overcrowded schools. When a neighbor and I were discussing this project recently, she said she felt like we were living in an island because we had become so separated from the rest of the town by the recent increases in traffic. I completely agree with that sentiment. I can't imagine feeling any more cut off than we already are. On top of that, I can't imagine our small businesses dealing with any more traffic and congestion without any additional parking. Our neighborhood contains most of the commercial base in the town, and I'm concerned that our small businesses will suffer along with the residents. In our old neighborhood in California, something similar happened where a lot of offices and apartment buildings were built very, very quickly. And as a result, we really saw small businesses suffering, a lot of them closed, and even businesses that were doing well, like Starbucks, they couldn't get employees because their employees had to park so far away to even get into their jobs. So we really saw it change the nature of our neighborhood. We like to live in neighborhoods where we can walk to things. And by the time we left, most of the small businesses that we had walked to when we moved there were really suffering, and a lot of them had closed. So I would hate to see that happen to our local businesses as well. I'd like to end by saying that I'm absolutely in favor of building more affordable housing along with development in parts of our neighborhood, but that development must be done in a thoughtful manner. And due to all the concerns that have been raised, especially the ones that Jerry Tauger raised earlier, I don't believe that this development is thoughtful in any way. It seems like there are a lot of issues that haven't really been thought through. And I hope that everyone's concerns will be taken seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tenaforte, and thank you, Doctor, for all you're doing in the midst of it. Hillary, if you could mute the Tenafortes and unmute Jim Coyle, please.
Mr. Coyle, is that you there on video? Can you wave if that's you?
No, I don't. No, that's not him.
Yeah, that's definitely not Jim Coyle on video.
No. If you don't have his name,
I can turn the video on if you'd like.
oh, there he is.
I just had a couple of Jims, so I needed to make sure I had the right one.
Okay, that's me.
Okay. Jim, you're on.
Okay, earlier today, I submitted a rather long email to the select board, to Mike Dennehy, and to Richard Beeler of the planning board as well, and to the EMNA board. My main comments is on public safety here. I really appreciate the comments from the Shaughnessy's, who are right in the middle of the, well, they're right next to it. One of the things that really affects them, it's a project like this, a 6-story building. I did a quick survey of the building construction in Quincy. There are no 6-story buildings in or adjacent to a residential project neighborhood, period. There just aren't any. It just isn't done in the world out there at all. And normally they would do a shadow study, the architects. I'm surprised they didn't, there's things like that I'm concerned about the project going right to the zoning board, skipping the planning board, who would ask a lot of intensive questions to review this project that's beyond the capability of most of the residents here. The traffic, I think the Shaughnessy's brought up the corner of the intersection of Franklin Bassett. It has blind turns, but it's very difficult to get through that intersection. Truck traffic. Right now we have tractor trailer trucks parking wherever they want, out right on Adams Street to offload, and there's no accommodation. Loading zone has kind of been a big problem for years here now. What do other people do? But I asked myself this question here, and in my example to the select board, I picked number 106 Washington Street in Quincy, which is at the corner of 2 main roads, Washington Street and McGrath Highway. It was a 4-story building built there a number of years ago, very attractive in my opinion, that they added a buffer street, if you will, a single lane street that's one way off of McGrath Highway to provide access to the garage entrances. It's a 4-story building with garages on the ground floor on street level and 3 levels above it. I think it only has about 15 or 16 units that are condos, large ones. But the footprint is similar to what is proposed to this project, probably somewhat smaller, but the concept in there is setting it back from the flow of traffic and setting it back, in this case, from the Shaughnessy's homes and other homes on Franklin and Bassett. I wanted to offer something constructive here, so that, and I would suggest that the select board involve several people from the planning board to go through this project in detail and offer a lot of comments and pushback against this proposal. I think the most that should ever be is 40 to 45 units, and maybe with half of them affordable if they're really serious about having affordable housing in this project. But in the end, part of my other comments were have put in wide sidewalks, as in my example in Quincy, and create a truck loading zone there, a designated area, which has been a sore point for the neighborhood anyway. I would also look at the in and outs of the fruit market, which was neglected by the Falcones in their traffic study a couple of years ago. That needs to be revisited so that a serious traffic study to protect the neighborhood is essential for this project. And I didn't see any mention of that in what was submitted to Mass Housing at all. Maybe I missed it, but there's so many. I think I've covered enough of my points here right now. But the public safety. Oh, one other thing which I thought was totally unacceptable: the entrance to the parking area in the back of this building, as it's currently drawn, goes underneath the end section of the building. That would be the on Franklin at the corner closest to Adams Street. There's a picture of this, you're driving in and out to go to the rear of the building there, and you're going under a building. If there was ever a fire in that section of the building, the fire trucks, everybody would be blocked off from half of the building. That's incredibly unacceptable. And I never, for a residential building, that's a huge design error, right, in my opinion. And I think the select board should be realistic in here and list a lot of extra help, professional help here now. I know you have one person that's going to help you, but is that really enough in the short time frame that has happened here? I would suggest that you speak with the planning department in Quincy, who have faced this issue many, many times in similar projects, and get some help from them to bolster your argument to the Mass Housing. I'm not against affordable housing at all, but make this a realistic project, maybe 40 units, but set it back well away from Bassett Street and add that extra buffer in there to protect the neighborhood and fix the intersection with a serious traffic study at the corner of Franklin and Bassett.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. We did get your email, and it's already been forwarded, and so thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Okay.
Hillary, if you could activate Carol Joyce Harrington. I think her name's on here, but she's at 1585.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I just want to echo a lot of what was just said by many people, including the Shaughnessy's. And I will tell you that Shane is my daughter. She grew up here at 41 Franklin Street. So we've been here, not to give away her age, but we've been here for almost 40 years. And my husband before that, this was the house that he grew up in. So we've seen a lot of changes in the neighborhood being here those many years, as did his parents, from the fruit center to the new restaurants, the gym, and it's all impacted the neighborhood. Our residential neighborhood has always worked with these businesses and endeavors to achieve a positive result, with the exception of this project. In short, today's proposal of 111 units, 37, I believe, maybe 2 or 3 bedrooms, with parking in a 6-story high building, a concrete block, on a postage stamp size lot that's, you can just throw a rock into the residential area, which is already plagued by traffic and water issues, which were already talked about. The underground spring, we've seen that over the years, wreak havoc on Franklin Street. It's just mind-boggling. We're not opposed to a project that would be there. It's just the sheer mass and design of this one. The last proposal we were very close to. I remember several years ago, Alexander Whiteside saying, you know, develop something that will fit in the neighborhood. This is a concrete box. It's too big, it's too ugly, it doesn't fit in the neighborhood. If anything, COVID that came out of goodness with COVID is the traffic calming. Honestly, we have been back to normal, whatever normal was, on Franklin, Bassett, Church, and Wood, even Adams Street, with less cut-through traffic. It's quiet. You see people out and about riding their bikes with their families. It's the way the neighborhood has always been. I would talk to the schools. I know Shane had already mentioned that. We have, let's see, trying to look at my notes here. Let's see. I think the where the 6 stories comes in, it's higher. It'll dwarf any residence homes. It's going to block sunlight and cast shadows all along. The parking garage, the gentleman before me, Mr. Coyle, had just talked about, that's right on the corner. You've got a garage that's going to be open. You've got vehicles in there that are idling. Where residences are going to have to keep their windows closed. I mean, it's bad enough as it is during the spring and summer months, just listening to the traffic and getting the fumes as you walk out your front door. So that's my environmental piece. It's just the traffic, the safety, the health of folks that live here. I do know, even with the traffic this past summer, a young boy was hit while on his bicycle just in front, almost to the fruit center on Bassett. That's, I think, anything that we can send to the 40B folks to let them know that the scale of this thing just does not fit. We're not opposed to something there, but this massive 111 units, 6 stories high, sitting literally on a postage stamp as compared to the other 40Bs that have been presented across town with a lot more acreage. It's not a good fit. And I just thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harrington. Hillary, if we could move to Stephen Stockbridge. I think he shows up as Stephen. He's at 7019. Mr. Stockbridge, I think are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Carol stole all my thunder, but we've been here for 23 years, my wife and myself. We moved from Dorchester. You know, we came over to Milton, a small town. We love it here. And it just, that this, like everybody has said, that we're over at 39 Church Street. We sit on the corner of Church and Church Place. It's busy in the morning. The traffic is ridiculous. I get cars out in front of the house parked. You know, 8, 10, I'm not kidding, 8, 10 hours a day. And like Carol said, the size and the scope is just, it's like parking a battleship in the neighborhood. It just doesn't make any sense. You know, again, like everybody has said, we're not opposed to something. It's just, this is just massive and it just doesn't fit. Like your 3 questions here, the appropriate conceptual, I just made quick notes. I think Mr. Traeger, feasible within the housing market, but your first 2 questions, appropriate conceptual, would be a hard no, I would assume. All you selectmen, you know, come over to East Milton And just to picture that in your mind, 111 units, 136 parking spots. If you count up the bedrooms or the living spaces, it's 160 total. I guess people are assuming there's nothing to say that each one of these bedrooms would be an adult or a child, but you could assume that they could be all adults. So there's 160. I know in my house alone, my kids are driving. You know, we raised 5 kids. We're in the process of raising 5. I have 4 cars in the driveway now. There's nothing to say that each one of these bedrooms wouldn't have a vehicle attached. So where is the overflow going to go? They have parking now in that spot for Abbey Park. Where are those cars going to go? It's just, again, the size and the scope of this project is just on an acre of land is not appropriate. You go into Quincy Center, Natick, Needham, there's a lot more room and space in those areas than we have. They're doing development in those places, and you know, it makes sense. Right here, you know, 111 units it does not make any sense at all. And East Milton cannot bear the burden of Milton's housing woes. You know, again, we're for something. It's just not to this magnitude. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stockbridge. All right, Hillary, could we move to Kim Conroy, who is 2907?
Hello.
Yes, Ms. Conroy.
Hi, yes, thank you. So this is Kim Conroy. My husband and I, as well as my 9-year-old and 6-year-old, live at 19 Emerson Road. I'm also a town meeting member, and I probably am going to just be reiterating a lot what has already been mentioned. First of all, I'm a believer in change, as is my husband. He was born and raised here in Milton. We're believers in a bigger and better future for Milton, and supporters of adding additional housing into the town. However, there's so much with this project that's not being considered. The proposed project is not appropriate for the residential area with the congestion it already has. This plan doesn't take into account the infrastructure of Milton, nor the safety or betterment of the residents. With 111 units, that's potentially, just guesstimating, 222 automobiles, adding to the already significant parking and traffic issues. This congestion in such a small area, as we already know, is dangerous to our children, our pedestrians, and cyclists, which are all budding throughout East Milton Square. Local businesses will suffer from this. I know the 1040s had already mentioned it. I think Kate had said specifically during construction, but even thinking afterwards, people are just going to want to avoid the square. There's no parking in the congestion. I mean, as it is now, pre-COVID-19, it could take 45 minutes at rush hour just to get from our side of the square to the grammar schools. And so bringing up schools, this could lead to a potential, again, just kind of estimating 100 new students entering our school system. And as we already know, that's an ongoing issue that we've already met with as a town, that they're bursting at the seams. Aesthetically, a 6-story building just doesn't belong in a square that is so residential. It's building massing. The structure of this building is just going to absorb our square and take away from the charm, but also shadow whatever already what is there. It becomes a privacy issues for the neighbors, as Shane had already mentioned. And then coming to the economic stability of it, or feasibility, will people even want to rent in such a congested area, considering the traffic, lack of parking, and limited bus schedule, as well as the high market value and rental fees? And this is, again, pre-COVID-19. This building proposal certainly addresses one problem in Milton. We understand that there is a need for affordable housing, but what's not being stated is that it's compounding other problems we have, which is traffic, overcrowding in the schools, and the lack of economic or tax revenue. This space doesn't address that at all. And I know the original proposal did. It took that into account. And that was something that Falcones seemed to pride themselves on in the meetings that I went, is that the first, I can't remember how many units, but the first few floors, or first floor, was going to be commercial businesses to help drive some revenue there. And this structure, none of the 6 floors seems to address that. So bottom line, I don't think this proposal addresses responsible supports responsible growth of Milton. And I know I said this in my letter to the town, but I truly think it's a smart thing to do is address or invite politicians and whoever has to decide on this to really see what we're up against and have them sit at Starbucks during rush hour and watch traffic, or visit our schools at lunchtime and see that children have to eat as early as 10:30 in the morning, eat lunch at 10:30 in the morning, or as late as 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because there's not enough space in the cafeterias, or I think it's 400 children on the playground at once. So that's really my take. Again, I know it's not a lot of additional information, as my neighbors really cited it all, but just we feel adamantly that this proposal is just, it does not add to the betterment of Milton.
Thank you, Ms. Conroy. It's very helpful. It's very, very helpful. All right. Hillary, if you could unmute last, but certainly not least, Mr. Croninger.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Hey, Mike, thank you. And thanks for organizing this. This is a great setup. I've been sitting on these type of calls for 4 straight weeks and I'm a little tired, so you probably won't see as much fire in my belly tonight, but I appreciate the forum. Most of the stuff has been said very articulately, so I don't want to really go into repeating it. I have to say, I'm a little surprised the town, they canceled, postponed MLB baseball, the primaries in several states in the 2020 Olympics, but for some reason they couldn't postpone this meeting so we could all be there live, the state. But that being said, I think that if the numerals and letter 40B weren't attached to this and it had to go through any regular planning appropriate process without those that moniker attached to it, this would be laughed out of the town in 15 minutes. It's a 20-pound bag of potatoes trying to be shoved into a Ziploc baggie. Anybody who's ever been over in East Milton Square when the funeral home is having a funeral, Al Thomas, try to get through East Milton Square. They have people out in the parking lot of the fruit center taking people's license plates down and up and down the street of East Milton. That's what's going to be the case in this on a daily basis now. It's completely and conceptually inappropriate to have a 5 or 6 story building on that tiny lot there. It would be a behemoth that doesn't meet the character of the town. As somebody else mentioned, there are now in East Milton, if you drive through it, these strange looking stop signs already that have flashing red lights going all around them. That's because the traffic going through there is already so bad. We often have police stationed in our neighborhoods because of the traffic, pulling people over constantly. So you have to make sure you stop at every traffic sign in East Milton, folks. But that's a symptom of what's going on there already. It's a completely inappropriate thing. I think the neighborhoods acted in good faith 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when that was too big to begin with. And now all of a sudden they've doubled down and taken what I consider to be an adversarial approach to this whole project. And anybody who, I think somebody mentioned, bring the politicians, whoever's deciding from the state, bring them into East Milton and see if 110 units would be appropriate there. It's just not fair and it's not right to throw that kind of burden on us here in this neighborhood. And that's all I got. And thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mark. And I do want to point out, you did raise the question of, why we have to go through this. We have continued to seek an extension from Mass Housing, and we've repeatedly sought an extension from Mass Housing. Most recently, we were denied again on the 31st. Throughout March, we sought extensions because of the pandemic. And the responses from this Mr. Paul McMorrow at Mass Housing, which is, he's a member of the Baker administration, just repeatedly said that despite the issues going on, they've already granted us extensions, and that they said, while it's common for many municipalities to conduct direct resident engagement as part of the municipal comment period, and while Mass Housing appreciates the diligence of municipalities doing so, such actions are above and beyond the requirements of the comprehensive permit rules. Mass Housing believes municipal staff and boards are well equipped to raise issues related to Mass Housing project, et cetera. They went on to say that they thought we'd already started and that there was sufficient time given the relaxation in the open meeting law. It was quite a long denial, despite the fact that there's a global pandemic going on. So we've tried to get an extension, It's been repeatedly denied. We'll keep trying, but we have to be ready if they're not going to do it. So, with that, I want to give. So that was those are the 9 people who initially.
Mr. Chair, it's Richard Wells, if I might interrupt for 1 second.
Yeah, please.
Just to the previous residents' remarks and to everyone who has called in and put so much time to this. Clearly, as all of us know, we're operating a different platform right now. But I think I can speak for all of us when I say, and I said this on the Canton Ave call last week, is even though the comments are being mostly sent mostly sent in writing and now over Zoom, please, to all the residents here, don't think that there's no power behind your voice. I think for all of us, we're hearing it. And I think it's, even though this is a very trying times for us operationally to run government like this, I think that the message is being heard from everyone who's participating, whether it's emails, letters, taking the time to sit on, wait for their turn tonight. And I just want to say thank you. And as one who lives here in East Milton, I want to say thank you to all of them. And we are getting the message loud and clear and appreciate their comments. Thank you for your time on that.
Thank you, Richard. And I do want to give another shot to people. We had 9 people already, but I'm going to ask Hillary to unmute all the lines again. And if anyone else wants to speak before we move on, just I'll let you know. Obviously, we're still collecting written comments. The schedule on this is it's currently due on April 20th. So we're going to get a draft, hopefully by the end of this week, beginning of next week, and then we'll review it and publish that for people to look at. That's the process we did with the Ice House. We'll do that again with this process. So if anyone else, so Hillary, if you could open up the lines, and then if anyone else wants to speak, again, give your name, and if you're on the phone, give your the last 4 digits of your phone number.
Andy D'Amato, 6006.
6006, yeah. Anyone else?
Pete Dunn, 6616.
6, Pete Dunn. Anyone else wishing to speak? Going once? Going twice? All right. So Hillary, I'll ask you to mute all the lines again, except for Andy D'Amato at 6006.
Yes, I'm also seeing participant Ed Donovan. I can't see your audio line. I'm not sure where you're calling from. If you can use the chat feature and let me know where you are, I can add you to the list and we'll unmute you when it's time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that one. What's the name, Hillary?
It's Ed Donovan that I'm seeing there with a hand up.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, good. Got it. Got it. Okay. All right.
And Mr. D'Amato, go ahead.
Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, thank you. And, thanks for this forum. I think it's important, even in this situation, COVID situation, that, we have this discussion. So thanks for doing it. I'm Andy D'Amato. I live at Pear Street in East Milton. I'm an East Milton Neighborhood Association board member. I also sat on a small working group that met numerous times with the Falcone team on the last project. And I was an attendee at the ULI meeting. So I have some time in on this issue, and I'm, truly invested here. I'm also a 30-year resident in East Milton, and I'm an owner of 2 local businesses. My wife, who grew up here, owns and runs the Plate restaurant over the Fruit Center. So on one hand, I would love to have 300 plus patrons going upstairs and getting 8 sandwiches. Yeah, that would be nice. But I'm also a resident here who patronizes the square daily. And I think a project of this size and scale, or actually anything close to that, will destroy the fabric of the neighborhood, that I've really grown to love. I love this town, and I really enjoy East Milton. I chose to live in East Milton because I can walk to all the shops, and I know everybody and all the shop owners in town, and it has a real town feeling. But my issue is really with the economic feasibility portion of this. The Corcoran and Falcone team said at the steering committee meeting, which I also sit on, I'm sorry I didn't mention that. The Corcoran and the Falcone team also said that they needed 111 units to make this economically feasible for them, okay? So my question is, how do we know as neighbors and layperson know what is a fair amount of profit that we should allow the developers to make? Because obviously they need to make money. They're in the business of making money. They have the property. They have a right to build something there. But how do we know what is a fair profit versus what could just be greed? At one point in the process, we were in the low 50s for units, and the Falcones were ready to go for that. So maybe at worst case scenario, we were looking at, I think we're at 53 units. Maybe they wanted to 58. We couldn't meet on that, and then it went away. So, then they just backed off and they said enough. So now they want 111 units? Really? So is the Corcoran team telling us that the Falcone team is so grossly incompetent that they made an error almost 100%? We're not talking, 20% higher, 100% higher. I'm not buying that. Mr. Falcone is a very successful business person, and I don't believe for a minute that team would make that kind of error. What I think it is more likely it's a case of now there are two entities in there needing to eat now. The pie needs to be bigger. So my question to the board here is how do we get financial transparency? How do we find out really what they need? I mean, they need to make some money. They're taking a risk. This is business. We understand this on East Milton Neighborhood Association. But how do we know what's greed and what is necessary for them to make a profit? And if the number is 111, then why does that business decisions have to fall on the backs of the town of Milton, and more specifically, the neighborhood of East Milton? So that's my question, really. Do we have any sort of means of transparency for the financials?
Yeah. So Andy, I can just tell you on the comment that we're supposed to make on financial feasibility is whether it appears financially feasible within the housing market based on comparable rentals and comparable sales figures, right? So if we have independently verifiable data to evaluate feasibility, given sales and rentals figures, it's really based on, that's what we're commenting on, really more than whether they're making money, right?
So profitability is not an issue here?
That's not among the three categories that we can comment on. It's just in our comments under the mass housing.
Is this a point we can make later in the appeals process at the ZBA? Is that where this comes in?
So look, here's what I'd say. Send it. We got the point, and we're gonna review it with our consultant for this purpose. I see Melinda. Yeah, I see. And then at the ZBA, there's a lot more consider, but I think Melinda wants to address that point. Melinda?
So because this is a 40B project, profitability is very strictly regulated. And that's one reason this is going through a subsidizing agency. And I believe, although I, like a lot of you, are very tired at the moment, so I could have it backwards, ownership versus rental, but I believe that they're limited to about 10% as far as a return on, like, an internal rate of return. But I could have that slightly wrong, but that is very tightly regulated. But now, instead of just a regular project, you have a project in which you're now having to buy down something that was market rent to a more affordable. And so that it becomes a little more complicated. Plus, I don't know what construction costs are doing now versus.
Sure, and that goes.
But anyway,
more to
that
my
is
point.
very strictly regulated. Just because I hear your concern about that, I absolutely understand that. So thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment, and I appreciate it. And I'll get on. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye-bye.
All right, could you, Hillary, unmute Pete Dunn, who's at 6616, please? And actually, can you mute Mr. Donovan for now, just so we don't get the background noise? There we go. And then unmute Pete Dunn at 6616.
Mr. Dunn, you are unmuted now.
Okay, thank you. I just had a couple of quick points. I live at 84 Franklin Street, so I'm one block away. I've lived there for 15 years. I'm also a member of the neighborhood association, and I've worked on the working group with the first couple iterations of the project with the Falcones, along with Andy D'Amato, who spoke earlier. I just want to echo his point about the financial feasibility. I understand that it's maybe a look at market rents and seeing if the project can actually make money. But I've heard it said that oftentimes a developer in a 40B process is somewhat bound by its last public offer. And so I would ask you as the select board to explore with town council that concept in light of the history of this project to see if that's something that would be of influence to the folks at the state. Couple other quick points. At the last meeting, Dan Barron had spoken about a concern about fire safety, which was in particular whether we had ladder trucks in town that could potentially service the upper floors of a project this big. I don't know if there's been an answer to that question or not, but that's something that's I think of a lot of concern. That, you know, do we have a fire truck that could get in there and, you know, rescue people in the event that was needed. And then I think the last thing I'd want to say is really just the site suitability. I'll echo everything everyone else said, that, you know, if you had to sit down and think of a worse corner to put a huge building on, you know, you'd have a hard time thinking of one in town right now, because I think everyone knows that Franklin Bassett corner that runs between Adams and Granite Ave is extremely congested, both with traffic coming in and out of the fruit center, the gym, all the businesses that are there, as well as the commuter traffic and all of the delivery trucks. So I think a really, really thoughtful approach has to be made with respect to thinking about how that traffic flow would work and whether that's appropriate for the site. And then lastly, I'd echo what I think was said earlier, which is the water table is extremely high. I'm one block away. I've got a French drain, 2 sump pumps, and I think that a serious and independent analysis needs to be done with respect to the water issues that are potentially there when you've got a project that's been proposed of this scale, and, you know, the effect it could have on, you know, all of the surrounding properties. That's all I have to say, and thank you for your attention and thoughtfulness here.
Thanks, Pete. Hillary, could you unmute Ed Donovan at 0514?
Go ahead,
Hello,
Mr.
can you hear
Donovan.
me? All right, can you hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to echo a few points by many people. A couple of them just got brought up, and that's one of the biggest parts is the fire department. And usually when big projects like this go on, somehow the developer comes in and says, all right, we'll build you a fire department. We'll do this for you, do that for you. We haven't heard nothing of that. I guess it's our responsibility to take care of their building. So that's a big concern of mine. The other thing is, my question is when Mr. Falcone bought this piece of property, they paid, it seems like he overpaid for two pieces of property there. Somebody, somewhere, somehow gave him an idea that this was actually going to work. I'd be willing, I'd be curious to find out if somebody in the town had actually said this could work. And yeah, you should go ahead and put all this money out. And I think we can get this thing through. This is my own opinion. If I'm wrong, so be it. I've been wrong plenty of times. I talked to, actually had some conversation with Mike Denny tonight about postponing the meeting. And he actually explained to me that it was out there, but since I own a business and I'm trying to take care of my employees in a very difficult time, I did not look into it. And your explanation about 10 minutes ago was, it seemed like it was fair enough. It's out of your hands. As far as the infrastructure goes and things like, I usually leave at 5:30 in the morning out of my house at 41 Antwerp Street. If I leave any later than 7:25, I can't get out. Everybody's cutting through to get down to Squantum Street, and it's a mess. It's a complete catastrophe. And then to get on, I don't usually take a right onto Granite, but to get onto Granite and get on the highway is just what it could mean after all these cars and everybody else comes in. Seems like it's going to be a real mess. I feel for the people that have the issues with the water table. I grew up in a house in Rosendale that had water table issues. So this should be really addressed. If somebody's going to, build something and destroy somebody else's house, there should be some repercussions or something should be done about it. I think that's about all I have. Again, I just don't understand how these people can buy all this property and all of a sudden it's owed to them, that they should be able to do what they want with it and build this building as it is, and then to somehow not be happy with what he got, and then all of a sudden bring another powerhouse in. So you got two powerhouses going at the town, all these residents with all this money they're going to throw at it, and all this power, not just money, but also legal power. So I just voiced my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Appreciate it. And thank you, everyone. We've got everything that you've said today. We've got notes. We're going to send the video of this to our consultant who's helping us with this. We've got all the written comments, and that will all inform us as we try to put together our response on these three issues. So, oh, someone's raising your hand. That is Karen. Hold on. Hillary, could you unmute Karen? I don't see a last name there, but could you unmute Karen? Hi, did you wave your, were you waving at us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So understood that people aren't home, so I took a quick walk up to where we're talking about to maybe give a visual if folks aren't on the scene. Let's see, can I flip it? So this is a two-family house. This is one of the two properties that my husband actually grew up in. It's one of the two, it's a two-family house. on the part where we're now going to place them. Here's the second one, and we'll see Shane's house. Is this okay, guys, to do this?
Yeah, I think it's.
It's to try and give an actual visual, because the images that I've seen, Shane's house is right here. So the images I've seen of this small little space and this road where there's a car parked, and with one car parked, two cannot get by, have not been realistic. And I think a couple of folks have raised the point there. Trying to put it in here is just not comprehensible. So, you know, I thought it was important to walk down and at least give a visual, if we're going to be having this added in on Zoom, as to what this might look like compared to the two houses that are there today and the small space that's trying to put in, because it's just going to be so difficult to actually believe this is going to come through.
Thank you, Karen. Can we just get your last name for the record?
Oh, Harris. I had not intended on speaking, but
Karen Harris. Sure, you're right. Okay.
Fortunately, I didn't have to go through a lot of traffic because, as a lot of people have said, you know, certainly appreciate all the efforts that have been put forth. And it was at Mansfield, I think I heard, has provided some additional masks and safety equipment for the police. Certainly appreciate that. But I have to say, to see the town in a way that you can actually live in the town is very unique. I have my daughter with me out for a walk, which I have not done in years in this same way. And it is, honestly, at this point, we are so isolated to be able, I had mentioned not being able to walk to the school system, to be so disconnected. I mean, even putting in, for an example, for one business that was put in, the Kumon Learning, I cannot drive down this road during that one business for people trying to come in and out. I am not able to come down this road to get my children because the people are unfamiliar with the location. They have nowhere to park, and they are circling around in a very, very dangerous manner, just for that small one business to try and pick up children. So people from out of town that are coming in, it has been very, very scary, by the way.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's very helpful. All right. So thank you, everyone. As again, we've gotten the written comments. Please feel free to send whatever you have on that score. We've got obviously the comments from tonight and from about a month ago. And we'll be putting together a letter. We'll probably have a draft next week sometime. It's due on the 20th, which is just under 3 weeks from now. And so we'll have a draft up on the website probably after our meeting next week when we review it. That's what, you know, we're hoping the schedule will be. And then we'll be ready to tee it up and send it out. So thank you all. We're going to move to item 6.
Mr. Chair, it's Richard. Could you just hold on 1 second?
Sure.
So just 2 points. First, to the residents that had concerns about ladder company, Milton Fire Ladder Company, just so that, and you can reiterate this after I speak if you want, that the fire chief as well as the police chief will be able to weigh in on any concerns that they have, if that was one of them. And the second one I would ask you, because I've heard this now several times, and I have a picture of almost all the rest of it, the traffic, the density, all of that. But this water issue, as far as the spring, that I've heard about it, but I'm not sure where the source is. If perhaps in our comments, it sounds like it's something we want to address. If maybe Mr. Dennehy could have a conversation with the Chase or Mr. Clark or Mr. Thompson, one of them has to have some idea where the source of this comes from, because we probably should address it in our comments. And it's just the one thing, I hear it, I see the picture of it, but I'm just not sure where the source of it's from.
Yep, absolutely. absolutely. I think, in one of our comments that we're going to be going over on one of the other ones, we're addressing the water table issue, and I suspect that'll be included in this one as well. So, all right. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. We'll move to item 6, but I'm going to suggest that what we did when we had a last meeting, take a couple of minute break, maybe go get a glass of water and do whatever else. I have 8:47, and again, we're going to be going to item 6, which is the response letters on 648 Canton Ave and 582 Blue Hill Ave. I have 8:45, so maybe we adjourn until 8:47. And then come back at it. Is that acceptable to the members? I'm getting a nod. Okay. So
That's fine.
We'll come back. Don't go out of the meeting, but we'll just come back at 8:47. All right. So I think we are all back. So Hillary, if you could unmute the members and Mike Dennehy. And we will move to item 6, which is the discussion of the response letters for 648 Canton Ave and 582 Blue Hill Ave. So let's take 648. Let's take 648 Canton Ave first. And we have the draft. I'm sorry we didn't get it earlier than we did. I think this one came in sometime yesterday. Comments or questions on the draft. The goal is to get to a point where we can get the draft up on the website maybe tomorrow. It's due on the 15th, which is 8 days from today. And so if we can get up on the website and then see if we have any additional comments, and then we can get it off on the 15th. So comments or questions from the members on the draft for 648 Canton Ave. I was muted. Sorry, Ms. Collins.
Wow, there's a fly in here. Okay, spring's come. I don't know if others had a chance to read the comments submitted, I believe, today by the Historical Commission, but I thought both cases there were several things that we might consider. I don't know that we want to go through them like this, or if how you want to handle things like that, because there's a lot in their letter, and I'm not sure what people would, how they feel and what they think might be pertinent.
Yeah. So the way we've been doing it before is to vet everything through Judy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought maybe the idea is, we'll make sure that we get another from her with those comments taken into account. She got those today,
right,
just as we did.
Okay.
So we can ask her to go through and see, in her view, what she thinks is appropriate for the present. If the members agree, that's just one idea.
Mike, has any more thought been given to Judy's recommendation that we combine one letter for both sites?
We can discuss it. I think she did the two letters. So she mentioned, I think, that she thought it could be if we wanted to. So we could certainly discuss that.
I don't know strategically if it has any value or not, but I think there's something to be said for, I think, separating the narratives. I mean, there's a lot of overlap. The applicant obviously is the same, and the sites are somewhat similar, but also very, very dissimilar. So I think keeping two separate letters would be the way to go. That's my opinion anyway.
This is Richard. I tend to agree with Tony. And Mr. Chair, I just have one question. Perhaps Katie, you can weigh in on this. with regard to Mr. O'Donnell's letters, the most he can do is, other than us, referencing any of his comments in our responses, is to put a 2-year demolition delay on it. Am I correct that there would be the most that the Historical Commission could do with this?
I'm not sure if they can even do that in this circumstance.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think they can, but I don't know if there's anything else that they can do, Richard. But that's one of their. They can certainly file comments with the ZBA if it gets to the ZBA. I guess I agree with Tony too. We should probably consider separate, unless Judy really finds we should find separate as well.
Katie, could you? I'm sorry, Katie. Could you repeat? We couldn't quite hear you. Could you repeat?
I agree with Tony that I think we should probably keep the letters separate since there are separate applications and there are common themes in these letters, but there's also unique comments to each property. So I would be inclined, like Tony and Richard, to keep them separate as well.
Melinda, did you have?
No, I agree. I do think Judy has connected these applications in her letters and in ways that are appropriate and meaningful. But they're going to 2 different people. They are separate projects. And so I think 2 letters is correct in this case. As far as the Historical Commission's points, I just think some of them flesh out things that are already alluded to in the letter, and just some of it's so general that I'm not sure that I just think it could be tweaked with some additional detail. That's all. Something similar to what Ms. Harris just did, taking us out on the street, or we experienced when we went on the site walks. However, a site walk is different when you don't have the real context of history and the meaning of that history for a site or a community.
I thought the Historical Commission's letter was very good. I had the same inquiry that Steve O'Donnell raised regarding an author or an expert on the landscape architect for the Blue Hill Avenue property. I have not called the member of the Historical Commission back yet, but I will. I guess the issue is should that person, and I don't know if it's a resident of the town or somebody outside of the town, should that person submit their own comments? My sense is they probably should. Does anyone have any different thoughts on that?
Melinda, Tony, any thoughts on that? I agree with you, Katie. I think that's right. Any other comments specifically on the 648 letter? I will say that on page 4 on the bullet on the water table, I think it's good. I just wonder if we need to blow that out a little bit more and add a little more detail. We got a lot of detail from, I think, Mr. Pugh when we had our call in a couple of weeks ago, and that's the only thing I thought could be blown out a little bit and added to. So that's what I would suggest, and maybe we could suggest to Judy I'd like to add a little bit to that. We can make sure that she gets. She embellishes the part about the historical structures with the inputs from the Historical Commission, the letter does say there is a section that I just had a question mark next to. We talk about the goals of developing on page 3, the first full paragraph, the goals of developing affordable housing, and say that the letter, it states the property at 648 Canton Avenue is an ideal opportunity to achieve these ends with appropriately scaled buildings that will reduce the need for clear cutting and major altering of topography. That's just, I think we just need to make sure that we're on board for that. I think that makes sense within the context of the letter, but we just need to make sure that that's something that we all agree to. So, any other comments on the 648 Canton Ave letter?
Yeah, I just have a couple of typographical things which I'll send along. It's a Delphi Academy, not Delphic Academy, things like that. But otherwise, no.
Anything else on Katie?
I had a comment that applied to both of them, which was that in the bullet point regarding the Central Avenue plan unit development, where we referenced 6 units being already built under that plan unit development, we should add 4 more that are going to be added with the Henry's project that's under construction. I think given the stage of that project's at, we should mention that it'll be a total of 10.
That's the first sub bullet point on page 2.
Yeah, I just lost my.
I'm sorry.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes, that's right, Katie. It's the first sub bullet point. Central plan unit. You want to add. You want to add to that bullet with the Henry's info? Is that what you want to do, or have another bullet?
No, I think add to that. That's right. Yeah, just add to it.
Yeah,
Under
you've got it right, Michael. It's the first bullet.
So six affordable units with 4 additional
under construction.
Currently under construction. Yes, Katie's right. Got that right.
Okay.
Aside from that, I think Judy really captured in her letters, both of them, and this comment applies to both of them, that both of these projects are really egregious projects that are not. She does make the point that both sites are residential sites and they're appropriate for housing, but they're not appropriate for housing of this scale and this massing and design and size. So I think she really hit the right points in terms of how inappropriate proposals are for both neighborhoods. And so I was happy that I was happy with her draft. I thought it was a good draft. What is our plan for trying to share this with any, like you mentioned, the Ice House, we made the letter available. What is the plan for this, for both of these?
Yeah, so I was thinking we could get it up on the website after we discuss it tonight. So there's 2 ways to go. Either we do that because we only have 8 days, or we wait until we get these changes. Perhaps we can get them by Thursday. Today's Tuesday, so perhaps we get them by Thursday. And then we get the updated letter on the site on Thursday. That'll give people a little less time, but it'll be the most current version. I'm kind of torn on which way to go, whether we get them this draft, which is substantially in the form it'll be, or we get them the final form on Thursday. So I ask the members what you think, whether we should.
Mike, my recommendation would be to work up a final draft that we all agree upon and then put it on the town's website, because I think it's kind of you'd open up the floodgates, I think, to all sorts of comments, and you wouldn't know when to put an end to it and just say, all right, this is going to be the last version of this, particularly given the fact that we only have 12 days.
Yep. Well, actually 8 days on this one.
Oh.
Yeah, 8 days. So
I guess the question is, how close do we think we are? Because if it's just changing Delphi, the spelling of Delphi Academy in several places and adding in the Henry's units, it doesn't sound like we're proposing substantive changes unless people have other substantive changes.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
I mean, this is this substantially Judy's work?
Yes, I mean, yes.
It's very, very good. And to Katie's point, nothing substantive, really. I mean, this is a little above my pay scale, frankly, but it's very, very well drafted. There is just, in terms of tone and style, a couple of comments that I will send to you independent of this meeting later on that I just think maybe we might want to rethink.
Okay.
And like I said, I can get into those details later, but so it wouldn't be anything substantive, no.
Yeah, I think the only Only thing that may be dancing on the line of substantive is the historical commission ads. That's the only thing that I can.
So my thought on that, as a
Go ahead,
as a
Jim.
as a tactic, I think it's great. But does it seem like, I don't want to say an empty threat, but almost like too little, too late? Because, you know, just playing devil's advocate, if I'm mass housing and this comes across my desk, I say, well, if this is so important, why are you waiting, you know, until now to do it? Why didn't you before? We all know the reason. So it almost seems like it's.
I don't understand what you're saying. Do
They could see right through it.
To do what before, Tony?
Right.
So to make this a designation as a historically significant place in order to thwart this development
Well, that's not
from being
what,
built.
yeah, I disagree with that's what they're doing. In our letter, in these letters, the drafts, it talks about the buildings and history and how they contribute both to the neighborhoods and the community. And I was just, my thought was that the historical commission just provides a few details that flesh that out to help make it live a little bit more, rather than just saying, well, these are historic and they add to the character. It gives some life to that part of the letters that are already drafted, in my view. And they didn't receive historical designations. That's a good question. Why? They do address in their letter the fact that there's just not a lot of funding in Milton to protect everything. But that both the master plan and the housing production plan both note that we would like to protect homes such as these by adaptive reuse for housing that would help with affordable housing and housing in general.
This is Richard. Oh, Richard, just to follow to Melinda's comments. So I get it. So your thought is, in both those documents you cite, our goal is to do it while maintaining, if possible, the current structure and not totally disrupting the character of the locations and the neighborhoods that these residences are located in. Am I getting that correct, Melinda?
I think that's what the letters say. That's my
I do
understanding.
too. I think
of the
so.
letters.
I do. I agree.
Yeah, and I have to say that that also it is basically what the Affordable Housing Trust and the Housing Committee, their letters say as well, that housing is the goal and appropriate for these sites, but in a particular way that preserves the envelopes of these buildings and allows for adaptive reuse.
So
okay.
So so I guess where I come out is I'd like to get something up sooner rather than later, since we're just going to be making, embellishing certain things and changing things that are really form over substance. This is substantially in the form that it's going to be in terms of the points that are made and such. And so I'd like to get that up. That's my perspective, but obviously it's the will of the board. So
I agree, but I don't have a sense of what Tony's changes are in terms of tone and whether the reason there that we should wait. But I just thought of another point, and that is, at least I don't recall seeing Exhibit 1 to each of these letters, which is Cheryl to Gaius's designs. Unless I missed an email, but I did go back and check, and I don't think I have one.
I haven't seen that yet either. Okay, it's a good point. I haven't seen that yet either. So.
Have we? I don't recall even seeing a letter from the planning board.
So, so Judy got on Sunday. Judy received 2 drafts from the planning department, which look like drafts. They're not signed, so they appear to be drafts of what planning board is going to send in. So Judy got that from the planning department on Sunday. And so I can forward to you. That's the only way I have it. I didn't receive it any other way. And she didn't have the exhibit 1 either. So we haven't seen that yet. So it's a good point, Katie. We may want to wait until we get that.
Do we have this on our agenda for Thursday? Because if we do, we could at least put it up after that meeting.
Yep.
The challenge is, we're coming into Passover and Easter, and then we only have a few days next week. So there's really not a lot of time for people to look at these if they'd like to, unless we put them up very quickly.
Richard, go ahead.
So, I mean, I'm comfortable with it the way it is now. Absent, the small tweaks you're talking, I think it paints the picture of the issue. I think it definitely does that. It addresses where we're at. My only question is, do we, besides sending this letter to the state, should we forward this letter officially to the ZBA, to John Leonard? Katie, I've never done this before. Is that something you think we should do?
Well, I mean, you could probably copy them, but I mean, it's not their stage yet. It will be their stage.
Okay.
So they'll have the record. There's probably no reason you couldn't copy them on. It's a public document, but it's really not their issue at this point.
Okay.
He'll get it. Hey, Katie, to your point, this is on Thursday's agenda for approval. Both these letters. So we could make the tweaks, see if we can get from the planning board the exhibit 1, and tee it up for Thursday night, and then that will give people Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 5 or so days to look at it before we need to send it out. Not ideal, but we're working under a time, obviously the time constraint. That
probably works. Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that's.
I'm fine with that. I'm good with that.
And Tony, that'll give you the opportunity to get to make your suggestions on tone and style, and we can get that all teed up and on the website, by Friday morning.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Oh, yeah.
I did take an email that in the fog of war that is the pandemic, I received Monday morning at 11:19 from Judy Barrett. I think that those are the comments from the planning board. I just forwarded them to everyone. It slipped through the cracks a bit, but there was an email sent by Judy Monday morning.
Mike, you went out.
Sorry, there was an email from Judy Barrett that I just forwarded to the board that was addressed to yourself, myself, and Madam Vice Chair. It appears to me this is my first glance at it, that it's the comments for both of those 40B proposals from the planning board.
Mike, does this have the exhibit attached? The drawings?
Mike, you went out again.
Let me take a look.
I don't see it. I'm just pulling up on my phone.
I don't either. I don't see an exhibit there.
Yeah, I don't have an exhibit on mine either.
Yeah, so presumably that'll, and I don't know what the status of those drafts are with the planning board. As I said, they weren't signed, and so hopefully maybe we can get that clarified before Thursday night and get the exhibit 1 as well. Okay. And anything on specific to the 582 Blue Hill Avenue letter? I mean, there were a couple of tweaks that I have. Nothing particularly substantive. But any comments or questions specific to that letter from the members?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So we will get these to. We'll follow up with these comments and historical commission's inputs and anything else we get, and have revised drafts should be approved on Thursday night, and then we'll get them up on the website. Does that sound good?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Item 7, discussion approval legal contract RFP. We had a discussion at the last meeting about issuing an RFP for legal services. We have a motion if we want to consider it. The only thing I would suggest is that we say we want to authorize the town administrator or the town administrator's designee to issue a request for approval. Since the select board hires the town council, I think we probably want to have some select board involvement with developing the RFP. So maybe one or perhaps two of the members could work with Mr. Dennehy to prepare that RFP. That's just a thought. And looking for volunteers if we think that that's the way to go.
I'm happy to help. I said at the last meeting, I didn't think this was a critical issue at this stage, given everything else we've got going on. But if it's the sense of the board that we want to put out an RFP, I think we need to handle it the way we did with the WARF RFP, which is to get some input into what we're looking for, what should be included in the RFP. And I think we should probably talk with the planning board and the assessors and others who work with town council and make sure we have their input into it as well. Because town council works with a lot of elected boards and appointed boards, and as well as town employees. So I think we would want to be clear that we're getting that type of input, or that we're soliciting it anyway.
I agree with Katie on that.
So Katie, is that almost volunteering or?
Yeah, I'm happy to volunteer.
Okay, great.
I will as well, Mr. Chair. I'll do it.
So the two of you can work together and work with Mike on that. Does that makes sense?
Okay.
Is that okay? So
should we bring it back to the board and then at that point to issue an RFP?
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, so we don't really need a motion unless we want to authorize. I don't think we need to authorize the two of you. You can just do it. I don't think that unless somebody wants to authorize the two of you to work with the town administrator to prepare a request for a proposal, then we can do that. I don't know how necessary it really is.
I think the only issue is that creating a subcommittee where you need to have minutes and all of that. I mean, it was a lot easier on the 3-member board. We kind of delegated this stuff to one person. If you have two, I don't know if that's a working group or a public meeting.
Well, is the working group the same as a subcommittee?
Of the board, I think it is.
No.
So.
Well,
should we just have one person then?
You want just? I'll withdraw. If Katie, you want to do it with Michael? I mean, I don't want to put it all on you. I'll if it makes it easier, I'll do whatever you want to do.
I mean, I think we should all kind of indicate. Maybe it's a matter of communicating to the town administrator what our thinking is. And if anyone, and maybe there's not a reason to have a lot of input into this, but it just seems that we should give people an opportunity if they think there's something important that we should be considering for this, as well as soliciting the views of the other.
I mean, one of the things that you just said that made me think is that just listening from the other boards, maybe after we do that, maybe they're all fine and we don't have to do this. I don't know. But I'll do whatever I can do to help. I'll do. If it makes it harder, I'll do I just want it to be easier and as streamlined and as informative as it can be.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yeah, please.
The Chief Procurement Officer, Mike Kelly, who's got a couple of months under his belt. We heard Caroline acclaim him this evening for the search for and finding the thermometers. What if I tasked him? I'm sure other municipalities are going through similar requests for qualifications or a request for proposals. If I tasked him with that, and then he reports back to the board, and meanwhile I or he can take a look at some of the other elected boards or committees in town that utilize town council and make a report back to this board.
I think we still want a member of the board involved in the process, though. I mean, I'm happy with speaking with
Okay.
the planning board and the assessors. Yeah, I think we should still bring it back. The technical drafting of it, I think Mike Kelly could do. It's just a matter of what are we, what is the driving force here? What are we looking for? Is this a cost issue? Is this, are we looking for a particular legal service that we don't think we have at the present time? Yeah, essentially, what are we looking for in our RFP? Is there something that we're looking to add or something that we're, as one who said, this really wasn't a big issue for me. It was more of an issue for other members of the board. So there must be some driving factor here other than just being a practice. Perhaps that's something we could give some thought to and see if this is something we think we need to be addressing. Maybe there isn't, but is there something we need to be addressing in the RFP?
Well, one of the things I think the question has come up several times, is why don't we, I just think even just to give this a look, and as Mr. Dennehy says, touch that tree, and we may wind up being exactly where we are today, but it's probably not a bad idea to do it.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for anyone, but I think there is some benefit after not being in the market for a long time, just to test the market and see and take a look at what else is out there and see what else is out there. We don't, right now we don't know what we don't know, and it doesn't mean, I think we've had very good service from Murphy Hesse, and I think Kevin Freitag is doing a very good job since he took over a year ago. But it's always good to see what else is out there.
So it sounds like maybe there isn't much that we're specifically looking to put into the RFP. Maybe it's a matter of what will these proposals bring rather than what are we specifically looking for. Although I think we should bet that with the other boards.
I agree with that. Tony, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, no more additional thoughts other than the ones I made last meeting last week. But just to echo what you said a moment ago, I think we're doing ourselves and the town a disservice if we don't put it out. And it's very possible and maybe more likely than not that we land right back on Murphy Hesse. But if we haven't looked at alternatives in over 30 years, I think it's in our best interest as a town to do so.
Okay. All right. So, Richard, it may create issues with a potential subcommittee if the both of you are doing it. So I leave it to you and Katie to figure out who wants to kind of shepherd that through with Mike and Mike Kelly.
Am I?
Oh, no, you.
Sorry, I'm mute.
Okay.
All I look at the star sixes on my phone. Mute, unmute. I'm fine with Katie doing it, and look, whatever I can do to help with it, I will do that. If that makes it easier, whatever. If you want to just task me something, if you need to, I'll do it. If I don't have to. I'd rather, both to Tony's points, your points. I don't think this needs 10 years. I think this is something we can do relatively simply and quickly.
All right. So Katie, if you're willing to kind of shepherd that, and we'll come back to the board with what results.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. Item 8, discussion approval of the town meeting article deferrals. This results from our last meeting with Bob Hisk was talking about different options for town meeting and whether we may want to have a consent agenda taking care of certain articles, and maybe we may need to streamline the meeting, at least a first meeting, if we have to have a short meeting, and whether there are any non-budget articles that we would want to defer. It may be premature to do this, but we put it on the agenda anyway. The articles that we would look at, the non-budget articles, I believe are 35 to 45, really. So questions or comments? Do we want to just table this for now, or do we want to really talk about what is important, not important, but what is critical if we have to have an abbreviated town meeting in June?
So, Mr. Chair, this is Richard. I'm just thinking on the streamline side, I'd like to try and keep as much as we could right now, because much of it could wind up on the consent agenda and gets addressed right up, right away.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to cut anything now where that's a real possibility that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I agree with you too, and then put the harder items, the budgetary, to the actual physical presence. But I going to your table point, I still think we have time to see how this plays out and see where we're at going forward, where we're not till June. That's just my thought. I think we have a little time on our side.
I also think it's too early to tell right now, but I would keep Article 35 in because that's a pretty standard annual article. I'd start with 36 for the one we might want to consider, but I also think it's premature until we see how the next couple of weeks go and where we might wind up with the type of town meeting we'll be having.
All right. Any other comments or questions on this? If not, we can table this and we'll keep it on the not the front burner or the back burner. We'll keep it on the side burner. And
I'm fine with that.
We need to. Item 9, discussion of the Boston Harbor Regional Seagate Working Group. Is this something we want to do tonight?
I mean, it'll take 2 seconds for me once I actually find my notes. Sorry. Just to tell you that the storm surge group was supposed to have a wonderful trip out to New Bedford to look at their Seagates. We could not all sit on a bus together safely, so there was a Zoom meeting, and I won't go through lots of the stuff, but what Bill Golden is talking about now is some kind of municipal coordinator for each town that floods through Boston Harbor, and to have a committee made of people in town and groups, civic groups and things. So that's really where they are at the moment, and that's it.
Melinda, is that a group? Is that something that we would shepherd, or that they're going to shepherd the committee of people in town?
Yeah, I think they're looking for towns to start to put together advocacy groups, and then they'd all come together as part of that storm surge group. They've been working hard the past year and a half to really build out sort of this sub-infrastructure of civic organizations and businesses, and they've been making some progress, I think, with Boston and UMass as they've continued to discuss and meet and bring in experts from all over the world. There's a bit more understanding of places where not just interests, but people's technical understanding are coming together now. So that's a positive as well.
Okay. And is there a time frame that we start?
We did not get a time frame, but I think Zoom has opened a whole new world for Bill Golden and the ability to meet more often. So I expect that there'll be a meeting pretty soon.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions on that? Seeing none. Item 10, approval of the Arbor Day proclamation. On the Arbor Day proclamation.
There it is.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Do you want to are we reading them out loud or just voting them?
We could either just approve it or we could read it out loud. We could read each aspect of it. It probably warrants being read. I think that would make the point a little bit more, but that's just my thought.
If somebody else wants to read them, I mean, they're pretty standard, every year, so.
Right.
That's fine.
Well, it's 9:30, so if they're standard, then I move to approve the declaration of April 24th, 2020 as Arbor Day in Milton.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? I'll just say this is to support and protect our trees and woodlands and to plant trees, to gladden hearts and to promote the well-being of this and future generations. That's not my eloquence. That's the eloquence of the proclamation. All those in favor.
The motion should also say to issue the proclamation too, as well as declare it.
Oh, right. I'll accept that friendly amendment.
Motion's been made and seconded. The amendment's been accepted. All those in favor, this will be a roll call vote. Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Farrington?
Yes.
Mr. Wells? Richard?
Yes, sorry.
No, that's fine. Item 11, approval of the Earth Day proclamation.
I'll move that we approve the declaration of April 22nd, 2020 as Earth Day in Milton and issue the proclamation on the 50th anniversary.
We have
Seconded. Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? This will be a roll call vote. Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Farrington?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
All right. Item 12, acceptance of a grant to the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. There's a memo from Caroline Kinsella on this. $500 donation from the Norfolk District Attorney.
I move to accept a grant of $500 from the Norfolk DA's office to the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Farrington?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Zulish, yes. And actually, Hillary, if you could add Mr. Zulish, yes, to the prior two votes as well. I forgot to acknowledge that myself. All right, item 13, approval of meeting minutes. March 11th, March 30th, and April 2nd.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of March 11th, March 30th, and April 2nd as amended. There were some amendments that were circulated earlier today by several people.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, it's a roll call vote. Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Farrington?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zulish, yes. Item 14, future meeting dates. We have this Thursday, the 9th set, and then our next meeting after that is the 22nd, but I suspect as we have been meeting as things come up during the COVID-19 crisis, we'll probably meet Sunday next week and perhaps to finalize the letter prior to the 15th. To send out the letters, rather, to send out to Mass Housing. So do we want to try to set a date for next week right now?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Okay. So the letter is due on the 15th, which is, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but my guess is it's Wednesday.
Yes, you're right.
So if it's Wednesday, and we may need to approve the letter if there are any changes or suggestions, the letters rather, it may make sense to meet Tuesday night, and then we can finalize the letter. Ms. Collins.
We have to meet before 6:30 then, because the housing committee is meeting at 6:30.
Okay. So can we meet at 5 on
Yeah.
Tuesday?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
how are we submitting the letters? Is it by email so that it's okay to get them in on Wednesday, or is it a mail-in?
I think it's both. I mean, we have their email. We've been emailing them trying to get extensions. So, and we do have their emails. So I'm sure. So I think we'll send it both ways, but we can certainly send it by email, and they'll get it then. And they can't say they didn't get it because they've been responding to us they've been responding to us with denials as we've been trying to. So, all right. So we'll do next Tuesday, April 14th at 5.
It's fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right. Anything else on future meeting dates? Seeing none. Item 15, Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Dennehy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I think I'd like to start off my report by thanking our state electeds and the Baker-Polito administration. Many of us have been on constant conference calls with them. They've been consistent, very forthcoming, and relaying information to the town in real time. So as we wade through all these uncharted waters, it's comforting to know that we have these partners and advocates at the State House that are working tirelessly on behalf of the taxpayers and behalf of the town. So I'd like to personally thank Senator Timilty, Rep. Driscoll, Rep. Cullinane, and many members of the Baker-Polito administration. As a matter of fact, there was a conference call today with Mass Municipal Association and members of the Baker-Polito administration, including Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito, who had to jump on for the press conference at 2:30. So they're continuing to update communities. They're continuing to stay in contact with us. It's a two-way street. They're wondering what we need and how they can help. And there's full transparency, and it's a very coordinated and consistent effort. So I really appreciate that in these times. Couple of the notes from the call today. Unfortunately, the Division of Local Services, which is headed by Sean Cronin, was to hear a consensus revenue report. That was unfortunately canceled due to an IT issue. So we're going to have to hold off on that. I will follow through and find out when it's the date and time for its rescheduling. That's an important meeting because that's when we're going to find out what impact the current pandemic is going to have on the consensus revenue for fiscal year 21. So we'll stay in touch with that. But there were several things tossed about on this conference call today. Too many to mention, but one of them that came up was some of the legislation that has passed at the State House will allow the town of Milton and other municipalities to use free cash in FY21, free cash that has already been verified last year. It's new. They understand the predicament that some of the towns are going to be in and the need to be able to use that free cash in different ways. So again, thank you to the state electeds and the administration. They're starting to put some really good legislation together to help communities like Milton try to figure things out as we work through the pandemic. Additionally, our representative from the Department of Revenue and Division of Local Services, Jared Curtis, will be on a conference call with myself, the town accountant, the town treasurer, and the chief appraiser to go over some of Milton's budget stuff as a part of this consensus revenue report that will be transmitted to all shortly. So again, a lot coming up with the budget. Myself and the finance subcommittee and the town accountant will be meeting with the school committee, finance subcommittee, and members of the school administration, Superintendent Gormley and Assistant Superintendent Pavlicek tomorrow morning. So more to come on the budget stuff as we get it from the state. We're taking a look at the current budget and what some of the needs and requirements will be, and shortfalls, unfortunately, and FY21 as well. So thank you for that.
Muted. Thank you. I was muted for a minute. Thank you, Mike. Chair's report, item 16. I don't have anything that we haven't already discussed. So let me go on to the other members. Ms. Collins.
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Farrington.
I have nothing to add, Mike. Thank you.
Ms. Conlon,
No report.
Mr. Wells.
No report, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, public comment response. We had no public comment. That was item 18. Item 19, future agenda items. The only thing along the lines of what Mike said, I don't know that we have on Thursday, but if not, we'll get it on for next Tuesday. If the finance subcommittee thinks it's timely to start talking about the budget. And we had some discussion before about a freeze on spending and whether we need to do that. So is that something that will be mature for discussion and maybe action next Tuesday, Katie or Melinda?
Might, I think we'll have to see how tomorrow goes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question for Mr. Dennehy on that.
Yeah, please.
Michael, what's your feeling talking to the department heads? I know most of them spent, a lot of their capital and their equipment needs have already purchased, but my bigger concern is, do you see any potholes in the next 3 months? Anything, it's not foreseen. Do you see anything like that? Yeah.
No, again, the revenue side, we talked to the town treasurer. Receipts are coming in as they normally do, which was surprising and good to hear. Somewhat surprising to me. And on the expenditure side, I think our department heads, and you would know about this, and I've been working in this stuff for quite some time. I think they do such a good job throughout the year that they're on top of their budgets to the point where there might be some refining that has to take place over the last quarter, but they're pretty solid individually and collectively with managing their budget throughout the year. So I don't see anything unforeseen. Take Public Works, for instance. They're going to take some money out of their Public Works budget to cover the snow deficit and maybe not do something that they would have done now, but not have to use their reserve fund transfer at the end of the year. So there's some juggling of internal budgets that's going on, but nothing really striking at this point in time. It's just the revenue side. I think we're gonna have to make up for some revenue, and hopefully the picture gets clearer and people stay at home, and the pandemic, the curve flattens, and we're out of this thing sooner rather than later.
Can I ask one more question? Do you have a rough number what we have in the fund right now, which is what the balance is?
What we put in last year, 250 or 200. I forget what we put in last year. But
So
it's untouched.
I mean, it would be great if we could tuck away. I mean, if we could save all of it, but if we could tuck away a good piece of it, that would, I think, to Katie's point about going after that 500,000, that I think that's something we should at least, and I hope the finance committee will do this, start the exercise, target every bit of money you can. I mean, as you know, the department heads know how to do it, and you may not get to the whole 500, but you can get close to it. I think it would really be a prudent move for us going into fiscal 21.
That $500,000 number, if you're referring to the last meeting, that changed in the last finance meeting. So it's lower than that now. It's lower than that now. But
Okay.
21 is going to be a bigger issue than the fourth quarter of fiscal 20. But we're looking at a small deficit and need to make up some lack of revenue for fiscal 20. But 21 is a big wild card. So the idea is if we can allow if the freeze on spending will allow funds to flow through free cash for next year, that would put us in a better start.
Right.
But we should have more on that tomorrow when we meet with the schools.
Okay. Either way, whichever way we can do it, whether it's monies we have to put towards the final quarter of 20 or monies we can save in the final quarters of 20 to push off to use as free cash in 21, however you want to do it. But I just think it's an exercise that everybody, it has to be front and center right now for all our departments. I mean, they can do it. They've done it before. No one likes to do it, but it's an exercise. And as Michael says, we have some very skilled department heads here. It's an exercise you may not want to do, but it's something we could do that could get us over this hump. This was definitely something that was unforeseen, but much like the recession that hit us in, I think, 2009, we can do it.
Okay, all right, well, then that certainly will be on the agenda for next Tuesday. So I don't know that we have it on for Thursday, but certainly on for Tuesday.
Tuesday's fine. I think Tuesday's fine. At least not for me. I think Tuesday's fine.
Community happenings. I don't know that there's anything other than people should stay home, and they need to stay home.
Oh, I have one.
Just need to stay home. Oh, Mr. Wells. Mr. Wells.
I really want to give a shout out to, our restaurants. Anyone who knows anything about the restaurant business, and I only know this from my brother Jimmy, who was in the restaurant business corporately here in Boston for 25 years, is that they work on a really tight budget. And if I don't know if anyone saw the Globe article last Sunday, that even with the ones that are opening due to Go and Grubhub, they're only at like 25%. If I could put a plea out to our residents, Navarre and Abby are together, Steel and Rye, Mr. Chan's, The Plate, all of them, the pizza places, Tina, all of them. Even if you could pick 2 nights a week to just frequent those places and just keep them going, because it'd be a real shame. Katie will remember, only because she's been here long enough to remember. You may all remember.
I'll go back to World War, Richard.
No, I'm not going there. I'm not going to the podcast, Katie. But it was not that long ago that we had no restaurants. We had no amenities of this type, and it'd be a shame for us to lose them. So to all the residents, whatever they can do, if we can support them, that'd be great. And I only said it to you, Katie. I mentioned it because you were there for when we were on the board when some of these came into fruition. That's the only reason.
Maybe just that nuclear bunker reference. I agree.
So I'm just giving out a shout out to all of them.
Business.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor, Ms. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Farrington,
Yes.
Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Mr. Wells, yes, at 9:49 p.m.
Mr. Zulish, yes. And I'm going to call to order a meeting of the trustees of the Governor's Stoughton Fund because Patricia Brawley has been waiting on the line for 2 hours and 49 minutes. And so I'm going to ask Hillary to unmute Ms. Brawley if she wants to give us a report on how are things going. Thank you so much for waiting. And I apologize.
Evening. Wow, it's very educational.
Well,
more than I wanted to, but at any rate, thank you so much for your support of the pantry. We were open on the 4th, which is this last Saturday. We had 75 families come through. And that's a lot for us on a normal week. We had sent out a letter to the families, all of our families. We have 130 participants at the pantry. So we had sent out a letter to them, and they, I believe that was helpful in terms of letting them know that we were still open, how we were doing things, and encouraging them to come back to the pantry if they needed anything. We had 2 new people come in, but that's all for new families. And the pantry line actually rings in my house, and since I'm working at home, I've been answering it as it rings. And we've had a lot of calls about donations and calls about people who are looking for food pantries. Because we only serve Milton residents, I generally give out information about other pantries in the area that they can use. We are not accepting any more donations for food and grocery products, and that's basically because it's difficult to handle these in case they are contaminated with virus. So we're following the recommendations of the Greater Boston Food Bank about limiting donations at this point in time. And of importance, I'm not sure that because it is late and I don't want to keep you any longer than you have to be. There is one issue we're currently struggling with, and it's not of our making or taking. The Milton Food Mart has decided to close for 2 weeks but they're going to see how things are at the end of the 2 weeks with respect to the COVID virus. So they may not be available to us, and that we use the Governor Stoughton grant to purchase vouchers so that our participants can go and buy milk and eggs. So we are this month kind of floundering to find another way to make fresh milk and eggs available to people. We have the clients with shelf-stable milk when we're open, so at least they're getting some milk product. But that is, if anyone has a connection to someone with a refrigerated truck, because we just don't have refrigerator space available at the pantry. We have freezer space, no refrigerator space. And so in order for us to be able to give out fresh eggs and milk, we would need something at the church on Saturday morning to be able to distribute from. So I'm reaching out with the thought that maybe has some connection or knows someone, or I have talked to Thatcher Farms. Saturday's a day off for them, and they're working very long hours these days. So I'm not sure if we can get something done with that. Hopefully the Mart will come back and open, and we'll be back where we were before. As you said earlier, hopefully we'll get through this very quickly and be out the other side, and things will go back to some kind of normalcy. But that's where we are right now. The next team will be up on Friday night, the 17th of April. They will pack bags, and then they will distribute on Saturday, April 18th. And then my team will be back up again on the first weekend of May. And so far that has worked out really well. Limiting traffic into the church and passing food out through the window has been a very workable situation for us. So we're doing well at the moment. Thank you for your support.
That's very helpful. Comments or questions from the trustees? Melinda?
Actually, this is for Mike Dennehy. I know that Dave Evans, who runs our in-house mechanics, has worked and maybe continues to work on refrigerated trucks because he used to work for Stop and Shop, and I'm wondering if he might have some connections.
That'd be great. If Mike could forward me the name and contact info, I'd be happy to follow up on that tomorrow.
I'll send you an email right now. That's a great idea. Thank you,
Thank you
Melinda.
so much.
Mr. Chair, just a question for Patricia,
Yeah.
whenever Melinda's done.
Yeah.
So, about how much milk and eggs do you go through in any given day? How much would you need?
We were doing the calculations on that because what we normally do is provide a couple of vouchers to each family to take them through the month. I can get back to Mr. Dennehy with the exact numbers tomorrow, if that's okay. I'll work on putting that together. It is a substantial amount of milk and eggs for a month.
And so having a refrigerated truck may not be, because that's just one day. You want to have enough, you give them a voucher that gets them enough milk and eggs for 30 days, correct?
Well, and we're flexible in terms of that. If we can cover this week of the 18th, if we can give them supplies for the last 2 weeks of the month, hopefully by the first week of May, we would be able to be back up and running with the Food Mart, or if not, then we would have another opportunity at that point to give out another half month worth of milk and eggs.
Okay.
We are, at this point, the eggs are really hard. I don't know if you folks have had problems finding eggs, but even, we were on a food bank call this week, and they're they don't have eggs either. So it's just become an item that everybody apparently wants, along with toilet paper. And so that has created a bit of a problem. I did talk to Thatcher Farms. He seemed interested in working with us and asked the same question: what's the volume you're looking for? So we are putting those numbers together.
If you would send that to Mr. Dennehy, and Michael, you just forward that to me when you get it. I'll be glad to do whatever I can to do to help you with this.
Sure, that'd be great. That'd be super.
Ms. Collins.
I'm also wondering if Brookwood could help with eggs, because I know they do egg shares, and I know chickens don't lay as much when there's not as much light, but I don't know what they might be able to do to help.
Okay, that's another thought, and I do know a person with Rockwood, so we'll see if we can try to get something going there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other comments?
Thank you. No, thank you. I'm good.
you,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to clarify one thing. You're not accepting donations of groceries, but and products, but you are food products, but you are accepting cash, financial donations.
Yes, absolutely. That's always great. That's always super. We are trying to provide more to everyone since it's such a trying time. So yeah, that would be super. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's very helpful. Yep, Mr. Wells.
Patricia, is it gift cards as well? Like, I think I've seen
No,
a couple
we
shop gift cards. No, you don't want those either.
we shy away from the gift cards. A lot of the
Okay,
that
okay.
we serve don't have transportation to get to the market, so it's we do better when we buy through food bank in our suppliers than we do with the $25 that they would take to the grocery store.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yes, please.
Local business owner Dave Newcomb of Newcomb Farms reached out today. I don't know if he's been in contact with you yet, Miss Brawley, but I explained to him that you are not taking any more food donations, but he'd still like to donate, and he'll be reaching out.
Oh, that's super. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Favorite places. Awesome. Thank you for your help.
All right, that's great. All right, thank you, and thank you so much for waiting so long. And I should have thought to get you on here earlier, but I apologize.
Not a problem. I was working along.
All right, well, next time we'll get you on earlier.
Thank you so much.
All right, a motion to adjourn. Second.
Yes.
Roll call vote. Ms. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Farrington.
Yes.
Ms. Conlon.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Zulish, yes, we're adjourned. We will be back at, I believe it's 5 o'clock on Thursday night. So thank you all. Sorry we went late, but thank you all.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much. Thank you.